All right, ladies and gentlemen, members and friends, as we always like to start, it is Flavour Hunters Festival. It's our May virtual tasting. It's a taste through the festival casks across Scotland's regions, across the 6 different whiskies that both Andrew and I, thank you, Andrew, for joining me, and both Andrew and I have both hosted events around the country now with these festival releases. So we're really excited to go through these, and I want to thank you, Andrew, for joining in and joining the banter and all the nonsense that we always like to do each month. This is good fun.
You're making this sound like it's a burden, mate.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's fun.
It is a pleasure to be here. We were both in the same room, a week and a half ago, presenting these whiskies for the Sydney event, and that was just fantastic. And why would I not sign up to taste them again?
Exactly. This is, as I said, this is my outturn. For those tuning in along, you can watch this live and drop your comments and questions and chat on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you're watching this from. Of course, we are going to 5 different locations at once at the same time, which is always exciting. So we're on our page, we're on our group, we're on our other group, we're on YouTube, and we're on Twitch. So we're always going live. So you can always leave your comments wherever you are watching from. This is May outturn, as I said. It's about the Flavour Hunters Festival. It's all the whiskies that we get to enjoy throughout the month as we go through exploring these festival releases, what they are, how they taste, and hopefully tasting them along with you live tonight. As I said, watch this at your own leisure later if you don't have time tonight, because I know some members who picked up the pack have already said to me, I won't have time Wednesday night, but they'll have time another night to get through them all. Just before we head on, I'm just going to go through a couple of things. Tonight, at the same time, literally right now, is an event in our Sydney going on right now, which is at Captain's Balcony, which is an outturn preview of June. That is literally right now happening at Captain's Balcony. It's sold out. I know there's quite a few people who missed out on tickets, but that room can only hold about 24 or something guests. So it's a nice sort of intimate tasting. It's a bit like upstairs Melbourne Whiskey Room. It's a very nice sort of cozy space with its own bar. This is not a one-off. This is going to be a monthly occurrence, and it's ticketed through Captain's Balcony. It's not through the society. So if you are interested in getting along to it, they're going to endeavor to get like the outturn, as much of the outturn as they can each month. And so I do encourage you to drop into Captain's Balcony. Of course, they are the latest partner bar to join the society. There's a bit of a poster on the wall about some of the stuff coming up at the society there. And there's, of course, the sign out the front that you can spot from a mile away. So just check out our website for the address and details and all that and opening hours. They're welcome to the Captain's Balcony, to our latest partner bars of the society. And there's some of the lineup they've already picked up at the bar. Also, a big welcome since last virtual, but big welcome to Beneath Driver Lane, the latest partner bar in Melbourne. Bit of a blues and whiskey and beer bar. It's a fantastic atmosphere downstairs there. It's sort of a secret door, leads down to a blues bar. In fact, speaking of blues, we held a music and malts blues night there just a couple of weeks ago, where we had members joining up and joining together. It was about, I dare I say, about 65, 70 members came together. And we had a live blues band, and we took over most of the venue, which was fantastic downstairs there. I have the honor of coming back from Scotland just recently, and I've got to say, Bath Street, Glasgow, is as good as it looks. So I just sort of show that photo of just how good that venue looks. So if you are traveling at the moment, do check it out. And other things that have happened since last time we all got together, we have SMWS vinyl slip mats. If you enjoy spinning the black circle, if you still partake in playing records, or if you just want to use it as a giant drinks coaster, like this photo implies, you're welcome to do that as well. So they're available on the website now, and we're going to taste through some of these rare releases. And Ewan's written a great article in our current outturn, the May outturn, about how these releases came together. Andrew and I are going to talk a bit more about it as well. They are not single casks, they're single malts, why we've done that, what that means, how that affects the end result, but they're all still cask strength. And they're being released each week in outturn. So
there's a question on the stream there. Someone's just asked, what order are the festival casks in? We will reveal that all in good time. Don't worry. You won't be out of order. We'll let you know what we're coming to at each time.
There's the question. That's right. We're gonna announce them. It'll be up on the screen. Don't worry. And Jesse, thank you so much. Jesse, I'm really sorry I didn't get a chance to properly catch up with you on Saturday. It was a very busy night. Must bounce around between a week. It can be quite a bit sometimes. It's especially this month, in festival month, it's been very busy. Well, I was in Tassie. That's true. I was in Tassie. That was another comment. That's true. Okay, so we'll get back to these comments. But yeah, so each week we've been releasing these festival releases. We've had the Highland, we've had the Speyside, we've had the Lowland, we've just had Campbelltown the end of last week, and 2 more releases to go this Friday for Isla Festival, which we're going to talk about later on. But how good is this? I just have to remark on this again. I said this at the Melbourne tasting on Saturday night. Being able to actually get around Australia and actually members coming out and tasting these whiskies in person with us has been amazing. This photo from Sydney that Andrew hosted just last week before, time's sort of escaped me at the moment, but this is just very recently, like 2 weeks ago at most. There it is. So Sydney's had their festival tasting. Adelaide's had theirs. There's a photo from Adelaide. You can just spot Alan in the background there.
Yeah, I could spot Alan there.
Yeah, there he is. And it's to my... that just reminds me they're still using that old banner, so I've got to throw that in the bin next time. And there's Melbourne from just 4 nights back at the fantastic Kelvin Club. It's had a nice facelift inside. And, of course, Tassie was just last week as well. There's Tom on the right hosting our Tassie tasting. So it's been a lot going on with these 6 releases and sharing them around. And we're just lucky that we've had enough to share around as well. We're able to open these up and share them with members. That's the whole idea of the festivals. They're not meant to be scurried away into cupboards to never be seen. They're meant to be opened and enjoyed. And I think that's sometimes one of those things that can often be, gets a bit lost in the wind sometimes, if that makes sense. So, Andrew, I thought we might start with Distillery 5 because I'm sort of going off your lineup from Sydney, but we can change it up a bit if you want.
No, look, I put a lot of time into thinking what was the right order to taste those in for the Sydney event, and having gone through it on the night, I'm sticking with it. I think it was the right order to do things in. I think we said this on the night. I think it's you're in for a really special tasting when the first cab off the rank is an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
When you're starting with an 18-year-old, you know things are going to be good. And look, that's not at the end of the day. It's a lowland whiskey from a lowland distillery. The lowland distilleries, if you're going to be very general about it and rely on the stereotypes, are typically a lighter style of whiskey. And certainly when you look at the rest of the lineup tonight, we're going to move through to whiskies that become a bit more robust and vibrant, and sorry, not vibrant, but robust and stronger, more powerful. And of course, peat starts to rear its head towards the end as well. So I think starting in the lowlands with the Distillery 5 is a great idea. Fantastic.
Now, I actually didn't pre-pour mine, but I will just pour it now.
Yeah, I'm same as you here, but we're about to crack for the first time.
Yep. Crack open your samples, and I've put a post up in the group just literally 2 minutes before we went live. Post a photo of your home setup. Where it's not just for this tasting, but it's also for a feature that we're running in Unfiltered coming up, I think next month. So we'd love to see what your home tasting setup is, your virtual tasting, whether you're doing it with friends, with a partner, with a friend, or whatever. However you're enjoying this tonight, please post a photo. We'd love to see it up on the group, or tag us on Instagram if you don't use Facebook, or send us an email, or print the photo out and send us a letter with the photograph, PO Box 1113 Newport 2106, and we'll take those even printed photographs. This whiskey, by the way, was easily, I think, either first or second most favorite at the recent Melbourne Festival tasting.
Yeah, right.
Absolute highlight, and I think it's full of tropical fruits and
Tropical fruit. I mean, look, it's it's in the sweet, fruity, and mellow flavor profile, and those fruits,
like mango and lime syrup and stuff.
They jump out of the glass pretty quickly, don't they?
Do you remember those? It wasn't Bickford's. It was like, was it Bickford's brand or like Cotties or something, like lime cordial? But it wasn't cordial. It was like the lime syrup that makes, like, you'd use like, I don't know, 100 mils of lime syrup to make 3 liters of lime drink.
Oh, certainly. Bickford's did do that. You did right. I know you can buy the Schweppes version of it now. And for those at home who are old enough, you might even remember Robinson's lemon barley water, which was powdered in a black tin. Wow. So look, for the benefit of people who may not be familiar, what are the festivals? Why is this a festival tasting? What does festivals mean? And look, we're basically piggybacking on something that the industry has really developed in Scotland over the last few years. It all started, I suppose, the most famous festival is the Isla Festival, and that actually started back in 1984. And it was originally a drama festival, and it was created and formed to support and endorse and I guess what's the word I'm up to here? To encourage Gaelic culture. And it was actually all about reviving the Gaelic language. There was a concern that Gaelic was dying. It was chiefly a language of the West Coast. And so the Isla Festival was originally a drama theatre with plays and performances in Gaelic. And then in the late 1980s, music came along and it became a bit of a music festival. And then it was about 2000 and I'm struggling to remember now. 2000, I think, was the first year when the distilleries came on board, and it became a bit of a malts and a music festival. And it's now a celebration of all things Isla. And in fact, my backdrop tonight behind me is a shot from the Ardbeg Distillery taken at Fashila, the Isla Festival. And because it was taking off and becoming so popular, other regions decided this was a good idea. So we now have the Speyside Whisky Festival, which is actually just finished. And there's also the Campbelltown Whisky Festival. So there's at least 3 regions that are now have an annual event to celebrate the distilleries and the whisky being made in their region. And we're the society have obviously we want to embrace that and endorse it. And we've spread our wings a little further to create the Lowland Whisky Festival. As part of this, and a Highland Whisky Festival, which we're going to have a representative from the Highland Distillery a bit later on.
Yeah. Great comment from Jesse Morgan. Reminds me of a 7-Up slushy on the nose. That's a cool tasting note.
Mate, if 7-Up slushies were like this, I'd be walking into their stores a lot more often.
If 7-Up slushies were like this, I'd be a diabetic at this point. This is fantastic.
What I love about it is right at the start we said, we're getting those tropical fruits. There's mango, passion fruit, and now that it's had a little bit of time to breathe, for me, the malt is starting to come through. I'm starting to get the barley, and then on the tail now, after a few minutes, in comes the oak, and you'd expect that, 18 years. In Festival bourbon barrels, you'd expect a little bit of oak influence there, and it comes through. It's interesting. It needed some of those lighter volatiles and esters of those fruity notes to sort of wash off first.
Question here, which sounds like a technical question. I'm a Facebook user. How do I rectify that again? Sorry to distract you. If anyone else can help, that would be great. Yeah, I think we're on Restream. So RESTREAM. Restream is the streaming platform. So I think if you just sort of Google Restream, Facebook allow or something, it should come up. You just have to allow Facebook just has to allow Restream to see your name or vice versa. So it's just a permissions thing on Facebook.
There's a comment here, car strength Mountain Dew. That's scary.
Yeah. It's I get that, like that lemon lime thing.
Yeah.
It's very I don't know if it's the right word for it, but it's very homogenized, as in like it's a very sort of full package whiskey.
Hugely well integrated. No doubt about it. Yeah. And I always find when you look at the distilleries and certainly whiskey when it's filled into first fill bourbon barrels, somewhere along the line, there was almost invariably citrus. And whether that citrus is orange or lemon, or sometimes a bit sharper, like a mandarin sort of citrus, or the bitterness of a grapefruit, maybe. That citrus is something you look for. And this distillery, that citrus is part of its regular flavor profile. It's known for that, and the bourbon barrels have brought that out and honored that.
And you said barrels. You've said barrels with a plural, so that's just maybe a good launching point for us to say these are not single cask whiskies. These are brought together by you and then the spirits team as a single malt. It is all from one distillery, in this case Distillery 5, or that place in that photograph right there. But I'm trying my hardest here. That.
Oh no, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Keep it going.
Yeah, so it's that distillery in the lowlands that it's a single malt, and it's still cask strength. In this case, it's 55.8%. Beautiful mid-50s. I have tried a drop of water in it. It doesn't destroy it, but doesn't need it.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Matt, that photo on the left there is a good one to bring up. So this distillery, very close to Glasgow, and the Glasgow, obviously the Clyde River and the Clydebank area was where a huge shipbuilding area in World War II, and so this neck of the woods was actually a target for the Germans in their bombing raids. And part of the distillery was destroyed in 1941 by German bombs, and it left one of the larger craters that left behind is what you're looking at right there now. And that's now, rather than filling the crater in after the war, they now bring their processed water into that, and that's now where the cooling water is kept as a local dam on site. So you're looking at a World War II bomb crater there.
So really, it's like if that bomb had hit just couple of dozen meters in a different direction, it wouldn't exist anymore today, really.
Oh, no, a good chunk of the distillery was destroyed. So bombs did land on the building as well. They repaired the building. They just didn't bother to put the ground back in where this one landed.
So great comment from Jesse. The oak brings forward a more of a lemongrass note. Anyone getting this nougaty sort of meringue fluff as well? Just the most amazing lemon meringue pie. Yeah, I get what you mean. It's like that sort of lemon lime meringue pie.
It's remarkably complex. It really is. And look, first of all, bourbon barrels. Good lowland distillery known for making good spirit. It's triple distilled. We should mention that as well. This is the last of the distilleries in Scotland, and certainly the last of the original traditional lowland distilleries that still practices a full triple distillation.
A few distilleries still triple distill, but these guys are the only ones that only triple distill.
Correct. Yeah. In fact, even the distilleries that do triple distill, there's
just one run a week or something,
Well, Springbank do their hazel. Hazelbank, Hazelburn. Sorry, yeah.
Plan, just put the word in the end there. It's fine. It'll be one of them.
Yeah. That's a good example. Ben Rennis used to do a partial triple distillation. They don't anymore. And
it's one of Loch Lomond's runs. Do they do a triple on anything?
I don't know about that. I know Mortlock do a very strange thing where part of their spirit gets triple distilled, but then the rest aren't. So that it's the one that comes out at, is it 2.81 distilled times or something like that?
Yeah, I was about to say 2.71, but it's probably 2.81 and 2.81 repeater.
Yes.
And if you ask how they distill it, Mortlock, after you've heard the explanation, you know less about it than when you asked.
Yes. What a lovely drop.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I think it's easy to overlook Distillery 5, even in our single cask range. Sometimes it's kind of like, I don't like or know their core range very well. It's always that mistake that you can get, like, it's not really my thing. And then you say, well, have you tried this kind of whiskey? It's like, it's unbelievable.
I think this is just my personal observation. People can disagree with me, but I'm very familiar with the core range from this distillery, and I've tried a lot of it. And I found that some of the no age statements or the younger ones can be, to my palate, a little pedestrian. But certainly, once this distillery gets some years under its belt, it just shines. And one of the this distillery is on our list of places to visit when we do the Society's Ultimate Whisky Tour to Scotland. We've been there 4 times, the Australian tour group. And on one of the visits there, they were good enough to crack the cask on a 1966 from this distillery. And let me tell you, that was one of the all-time greatest whiskies I've ever tasted.
Yeah,
Certainly this distillery with some years under its belt just shines.
I'd argue that sort of like years under its belt sort of comment works for just about most of the lowlands. There's a few distilleries up that way that sort of, I think everything I've tasted from there, which is a bit older, has always been quite good.
Well, I think the other thing, when you look at who's left standing from that era, they're all usually older expressions. I mean, Bladnoch is the other classic, and most Bladnoch now is pre 1993. So we're only tasting older expressions of it.
Yeah.
So same goes for if you can get your hands on Rosebank or St Magdalene, they all closed in the 90s. So the whiskies that we're tasting from these days are quite aged, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
And they're winners.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you reckon we try number 2?
Indeed.
So number 2, I just sticking with your sort of Sydney lineup, I've gone with the Hazelnut Bubblegum Distillery 19.
Indeed. Great choice.
There we go. So if you're following along at home, we've just tried Distillery 5 rare-release, and now we're moving on to Distillery 19, which is called Hazelnut Bubblegum. So you might want to pour a bit of that if you haven't already.
So we've gone from the lowlands to the highlands, and this distillery is to the east of Speyside. It certainly doesn't qualify as a Speyside distillery, but it's to the east of Speyside, probably about maybe 2/3 of the way between Speyside and Aberdeen, those of you who know your Scottish geography. And so very much a Highland malt, a Highland distillery, and renowned for many, many years as making some of the best stuff in the Highlands. And it was for many years a reasonably peated malt as a mainland malt. That stopped in 1995 from memory. So anything that's been bottled anything distilled and put into cask after 95 is generally unpeated. And
I thought it was 90. Was it 90 or 95?
Yeah, 95 was the maltings on site closed down. And then in 97, something happened in 97 as well from memory.
Anyway, I think one of the comments that I loved out of this particular whiskey over the last couple of weeks from members was sort of like they loved the Distillery 5 for a dram, but they'd love this one for a bottle, if that makes sense. I think this is the kind of one where it's just hugely enjoyable. And again, another 18-year-old whiskey, but radically different from where we've just been. Even though it's, again, same age statements, same cask regime, first fill ex-bourbon barrels. 55.6% where the proof is almost identical.
For the boffins who care about such things, so the maltings on site at this distillery closed in 95, and then they brought in peated malt off-site for an off-site supplier until 97. And then 97 was the last year they used peated malt.
Now, maybe clarify something for me here. I read somewhere, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, or if maybe I'm just crossing my wires here, but I read somewhere that these guys, it's 100% output goes into single malts.
I've not heard that. So
which I thought was fascinating if it's true, because like you barely see it as a single malt.
Well, I was about to say that's true. It depresses me because it means not nearly enough is coming into Australia.
yeah, and it's a Beam Suntory owned distillery, and you'd think that it'd be easy enough to find.
It's Beam Suntory if you go high enough up the ownership chain, but immediately it's a Morrison Bamore distillery, and Morrison Bamore have their own supermarket blends and brands. And certainly supply to many other blenders. So I'd be surprised if that was the case. But
I read somewhere that they've in the last sort of like 6 years or something, they've moved to completely single malt production, as in like producing as their own single malt or something. And it was like there's no blending anymore. There's no.
Well, look, to be honest, that's only great news for malt fans, because
it is. That's great.
It is such a good distillery that just makes such great whiskey. So if it's all going to single malt, that's great news. Very classic old distillery, one of the oldest in Scotland. It's 1797 it was built and founded, and you can see in the right hand side of that photo that the old malt kilns that, as we said, were silent in 95. But they do have plans, and maybe this ties in with your comment there, Matt, about them reinvigorating the brand as a single malt. But there are plans afoot to recommission the maltings floor and the maltings and start doing their own malt on site again.
The worst part about not saying distillery names is that we can't clarify that this is actually one of the distillery names that most people would probably say wrong from reading it. So it's like we can't even correct when someone says, "Oh, how would you even say that? Oh, how do I pronounce that?"
I'm not going to mention the distillery name, but I can see in the photograph there that there's two words, and that second one is, if I was to read it correctly, it would be pronounced Geary. So my good mate Glenn, who lives not far from here, you
are strafing the rules.
I'm saying my good mate Glenn would tell me that second word would be pronounced Geary, and.
Great comment from Jesse Morgan. Bubblegum balls and almond milk on the nose for me. Yeah. I don't really sort of get an almond milk, but I definitely get the bubblegum. I definitely get the bubblegum on this one, and like sort of hazelnut bubblegum kind of thing going on. I wish you could buy hazelnut bubblegum. Do you remember Big Red? Do you remember cinnamon? Do you ever chew Big Red? Yeah. Whoever thought it was an idea to choose cinnamon flavored bubblegum. I mean, surely should be a hazelnut bubblegum. I mean, that would be.
Yeah, you can have that. I'll
Okay.
If I want hazelnut, I'll reach for the bottle of Frangelico.
I used to love Big Red as a kid, but I can't stand it now.
No, it's not my cup of tea. Do you know the strength on this is just so perfect to me? It's what are we talking? 55.6%. It is just shining at that strength level. I don't feel it needs a drop of water. I know from previous experience that I don't feel it particularly changed dramatically with water, but there's absolutely no nose prickle. There's no burn on the palate. It is just so well put together and integrated. Really nice, clean spirit. And again into first fill bourbon barrels.
I was actually really excited when I heard that one of these festival releases this year was going to be Distillery 19 because we have seen so few 19s. At the society. I mean, I think the coding is up to like 19.42 or something, or .32 or something. It's barely been maybe 30 something casks in nearly 40 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, it went through a rough trot. It disappeared in the late 90s, early 2000s. Certainly in Australia, I remember when I first started my whiskey journey, you could go to a bottle shop here in Sydney, and I'm talking late 90s now and into the early 2000s. You could find the 15-year-old of this, which was the most beautiful smoky whiskey. It was so delicious. And you could find it everywhere. And then one day it just stopped and they stopped exporting it to Australia. Our market just disappeared. So, yeah, we haven't seen much of it. And when you do get your hands on it, it's just sensational.
Mm-hmm. Glenn, that distillery is widely available at duty-free worldwide with multiple editions. Yeah, well, there's probably a fair bit of it goes into duty-free. We see them all the time. Well, if it's all the time and it says Daz at the end, I'm guessing that's you, Darren, because you are constantly surrounded by aviation and planes and everything. So you probably go through duty free more often than I've had hot dinners. So, but that's yeah. Well, a lot of it might go to GTR. So which is kind of cool. Yeah. Look, more Distillery 19 bottles later in the year. Who knows? I mean, we could get lucky. Well,
I can answer that. Yes. There are a few in the pipeline,
which is great. Great distillery.
Yeah.
And
sorry, just to be clear, people, a lot of members probably don't quite appreciate the lag time between me selecting something for our branch and it actually appearing on an outturn. It can be a very, very long time. The society does its bottling runs. They make selections available for us. We choose what we think is appropriate. Then it might get bottled a month or two after that. It then makes its way back to the warehouse where it might sit for a period. We've then got to wait for us to consolidate and get a shipment on the water, and then ships crossing the water at the moment. You know, what used to be a 10-week delivery period is now blown out to 4 months. With, I'm sure everyone's aware of the dramas in the supply chain with shipping around the world. So by the time we say yes, thank you, we'd love that cask for Australia, it's then got to get here. So that can be 6-7 months later. And then depending on how we're going with outturns, we might keep it in the warehouse for another 3-4 months until we decide, this is the right month to showcase it on an outturn. So when I say, are there more in the pipeline? Absolutely. I know more are being bottled this year. When you see it on an outturn could well be next year at this stage.
Yeah. Great comment from someone here saying SMWS in-person tasting event. Fine bottling is the most difficult to pronounce distilleries and give people an extra education. So we'd go with Distillery 19, 35, 23, 59. They're the 4 trickiest to say. After that, we'd probably have to play around with it. Oh, actually, 53 people get right.
I'm a bit. We don't see this one very often, so I can't even think of the distillery code off the top of my head. But Arthroisk would be a tough one for a lot of people to get right.
I think that's code 95.
Yes, you are correct. Yeah,
95. 59. I said 59 because of Teeninic. That could be up there. Yeah, look, that'd be a cool idea. It's a tiny little extra dimension.
Well, look, to be Distillery 10. Distillery 10's got to be one of the
Distillery
most.
10, yeah.
And 29. How many people go? What's this La Fra or stuff?
I don't know. I think I've told this story on live before, but hopefully it's a different audience. But one of my favorite examples of Distillery 29 being mispronounced was a relative newcomer to whiskey came into Whiskey and Almond and said, I'm after that smoky whiskey, that French one. They're like, oh, don't know what that is. And they want the French name, that French smoky, really smoky French whiskey. Like, is it a peated Armoric or something? Or what is this? And said, it's like starts with L. Oh yeah, Le Foy. Le Foy. Yes. I like Le Foy. I was like, yeah, that could work.
Wasn't he the bad guy in Les Miserables?
Wow. Nearly spat my beer. Well done.
I timed it. I waited just for the right moment. Yeah.
Thanks. That's what friends are for.
I'm always here for you, buddy.
Cool. That's an exciting whiskey. And as I said, I'm really excited. That's personally probably has been over the last few weeks my pick of the lineup. I love that sort of complexity of the hazelnuttiness, sort of the sweet bubble gum. There's a lot going on in there. There's all these, like, I don't know, oily, sort of bit mechanical caraway seed note in it as well. I think it's a fun whiskey, that one. It's already gone, so there's not much point in me hyping it up. It's long gone. It was on ballot. Only 2 of the whiskeys we're trying tonight are still open to ballot, which closes at midday this Friday.
Yeah. I think from memory at the Sydney tasting, when we took votes at the end of the night, this one came second to one of the Isla whiskies. So, yep. Certainly for the unpeated variety, everyone thought this was the best.
The world of whiskey moves as slow as it takes to age. All good things are worth the wait. Oh, Jesse, this is music to my ears. It's true. It's if it takes 18 years to mature, I'm sure 4 months on a boat's not too bad, really. So, Leafrog, yeah. Leafrog, that was another one, yes. 95 says Mark. That's true. It was 95, yes. Arthrusk is 95, yes. Or might be known to you as Singleton. Okay, so how do you reckon? Why don't we have a look at Distillery? Again, I'm going by sort of your previous order, Andrew. I was going to suggest Distillery 93 or...
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yep, 93 was up next.
Changes faster than a chameleon. And we'll pop that up on the screen. There it is. And
hey, being the wonderful, fantastic, almost peerless jazz muso that you are, you would. I say that in full sincerity. Don't laugh.
Okay.
Yeah. You'd be familiar with Chameleon by Herbie Hancock.
I am. Yeah.
What a cool piece of music that is.
By the way, just because you opened a can of worms here, Herbie Hancock's Secrets album is his best album ever. It's not his most well-known album, but it's the best. Just listen to Herbie Hancock's Secrets, start to finish, especially if you can get it on LP or something. Like, it's just, I get worked up.
Look, the viewers at home, that the tips you get from our live stream, honestly, we straddle and cover so much.
Yeah, it's so good.
Coming up next, I'm going to tell you about great tips and tricks for using concrete and seasoned timber. So.
Wait, is tonight the Concreters Festival? That's tonight, isn't it? Yeah, okay, good.
Concrete Festival's next month.
Okay, good. Sorry, the Concrete Festival's next month. All good.
It was hard to set in stone.
Okay, that was good. Well done.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm enjoying this.
come on, you've used that one before.
No, honestly, I haven't.
Okay, that sounds like one of those sort of like, all right, I'm giving a lecture at a concrete conference. Here it goes. Here's my zinger.
No,
Okay.
but I've got one coming up, so I know what to use now.
Okay, good. Now, I just want to touch base on this. Jason says, like absinthe on the palette, first on the palette on 93 absinthe. That's a cool tasting note, absinthe. Actually, I'm just going to just touch on this. I asked the members at the Saturday night tasting to please leave a smidge of this or half of their dram in the glass, because the whole idea behind this particular release was that it changed so much over time. So if you've just poured this now, like we have, taste it with us now, like we go through it. But if you can leave just a touch in your glass, it's just kept changing and changing and changing. It was such a chameleon of a whiskey. It changes faster than a chameleon, as it says in the tasting notes. So I've poured my full 30 ml dram of this so I can have a taste and then park the rest of it.
This really has become almost a cult distillery with a society. I think when you look at the Campbelltown whiskies, and there's not a lot of them, this one is really becoming such a favorite, and it is a wonderful distillery, founded in 1832, so it's been around for a bit, and didn't have a particularly happy early history. In fact, it's had a shocking history all its life, and it's really only in the last 5-6 years under new ownership that's really had a chance to blossom and go places. And of course, we're all drinking and enjoying the whiskies from previous owners. So it was into the 90s and 2000s that certainly that's when some of the really good stock got laid down by the previous owners that the society then got their hands on. And I think we had some amazing casks from this distillery that we bottled in between 2012 up to sort of 19 or so, that really gave this distillery a tremendous reputation amongst members.
Mm.
And, again, you might wonder why a whiskey tasting might start with two 18-year-olds and then something drop back to something that's a bit younger at only 8 years old. Don't ever believe that strange concept some people have that, you've got to start young and go old. It's got nothing to do with age. It's simply flavor profile and texture and robustness and peat, and so many other things go into the right order that you should taste whiskies in, other than just age. And so, look, at 8 years old, this is a bit more vibrant. It's more youthful. The alcohol strength is a bit higher as a result, as you'd expect. There's been less years for that evaporation to take place. And again, we're still in first fill bourbon barrels. So our first three whiskies of the night have all had the same maturation regimen. But this one's just got that classic being on Campbelltown. All of a sudden, we're in an area now where the whiskies tend to have a bit more of a coastal or maritime character to them. And I would absolutely agree with that comment there. 93 really should be a secret, but unfortunately, whilst they keep making good whiskies, it won't be.
Yeah, it's the whiskey coming out that we've seen. Even I've said this before. There's these younger sort of 93s we get, like these 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old ones like these that are just another world apart from even the teenage or even sort of 20-something-year-old ones that we've seen recently. But they're all fascinating in their own way, and they all just get this really coastal, syrupy kind of maritime-y note to an extent. But they're always that I like to call it diesel fume note I get out of 93s.
Yeah.
Which I love in a whiskey, and I've had people laugh at me for that one. I know it's like that diesel pump fume, that sort of fume of diesel, which is that old sort of like country tractor and tractor part.
For me, for those who've had the joy and privilege of getting on a ferry to Isla or any of the Calmac ferries around Scotland, for me, the smell of 93 just takes me straight back to being on the deck of the Isla ferry, the Calmac ferry across to Isla, and there's the diesel fumes in the air. You've got the smell coming out of the engine. You've got the oily greased decks, and you've got the maritime coastal salty spray,
which was kind of it was a combination of that salty spray, the bacon buddy, and the black coffee on the Calmac for me that probably saved my hangover. But it was it's true. It takes you back to that time of being on the ferry over there.
Yeah. And I think what also made this distillery so fantastic for the society in those years from 2012 up to about 18, 19 or so was the diversity of different whiskies that were coming out of the distillery. Because of their ownership at the time and the sort of whiskey that they were laying down for their own particular house brands, they were making some whiskey that was very heavily peated, some stuff that was medium peated, some stuff that was lightly peated, and some stuff that had zero peat whatsoever. And then they were putting that into all sorts of different casks. So first fill bourbon barrels, refill barrels. There were some sherry casks that were just sublime. And so all those different permutations and combinations were just producing a huge kaleidoscope and broad spectrum of flavors that we as members were lucky enough to enjoy.
Mm. Does the Isle of Skyferry and a Storm compare? Haven't been on the other one.
I can't answer that. I drove over the bridge when I went to Skye. So
let's just go with yes. It's probably also a Calmac. So yeah,
I'd say so. Some things don't change. The ocean's the ocean.
I did have a couple of photographs to show here for this one. First one is sort of one of those if you know kind of photos. That's all. That's what I'm going to show. If we're in Campbelltown, we're in Campbelltown. Okay. If you've ordered the haggis nachos at the Black Sheep, then you've ordered it and not finished it. So there you go. But there we go. There's the 93 Distillery. I wouldn't know the name of it. Sorry.
I'll tell you what, my mate Glenn gets around to a lot of places.
Mr. Glenn, the stills, and of course what it looks like. As we're talking about festival casks, there's the Campbelltown Festival a couple of years ago. And they've got a pipe band and all this kind of stuff and perfect weather for it. That sky is not photoshopped. But even in like the last sort of like 5-6 minutes we've been nosing and tasting this is it's already changed a bit for me. It's already become a little bit more savory even.
Definitely.
It's become sort of
you say savory, there's actually a bit of a doughy note there, like a sourdough bread coming through.
Also a bit of pistachio.
Yeah, definitely.
Pistachio shells.
Yep. With the really nice fine salt that's put through it as well. The saltiness comes through. Brett Elson, you win. That's a great comment, mate.
You can find Glenn.
That works on a few levels. Well done, sir.
and yes, 93 is great. Never really been into oil and coastal before, so it's a revelation. Hey, I love that comment because Hems, you've just discovered a flavor profile you thought you maybe weren't into. Maybe you've avoided them on outturn. Maybe you've sort of overlooked them, sort of like, oh, it's not really my flavor profile. But maybe it is. Maybe it's just all it took was a good sample to go.
Do you think, would you call oily and coastal, would you classify it as a stepping stone between non-peated whiskey and peated whiskey?
Not really. I mean, maybe to a small extent, but I'd say it's those kind of, it's the first word. It's that sort of oily note. It's where it's whiskeys that have got I'd say it's almost a textural note rather than a stepping stone. I don't know. Maybe it is. But like there's some whiskeys which are definitely sort of strafe between oily and coastal and lightly peated for us. Absolutely.
Oh, we know it. We look at the distilleries that have been put into the oily and coastal category or flavor profile, and we know that it's lightly peated whiskey. And the tasting panel, in their wisdom, have decided to say, no, this isn't lightly peated. This is oily and coastal. So you're absolutely right. Even though they are still lightly peated whiskies, clearly it's the texture that's coming into play there.
Yeah. Has the umami layers you'd find in squid oil. I like that one.
Gotta love umami in a whiskey.
Umami.
Don't say it like that.
No, it's like if you're having some really good noodles and someone says MSG. I mean, yes, it's an amazing flavor, but it's kind of like, it is what it is. It's someone who may be considered peat curious. That's a good comment.
God, next we'll be referring to people as being peat fluid.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Proculio says, watched the SNWS America review of this bottle yesterday. Very interesting to hear the difference in tasting notes. Yeah, the US team have been doing some great video as well. They've been doing some like sort of reviews and tastings with their team, with Jenna and Ben and Tom. So big shout out to them. Big shout out to our US branch.
Wow.
That's changed a lot. That's changed a lot. Have you added water to yours at all?
Well, no. You and I are on the same wavelength all the time. I haven't, and I don't even have a handy glass of water I can reach for here. But I do remember at the Sydney tasting, a few people did add water and felt that it benefited from it.
Okay, I'm going to try it. Anyone who was at Sydney tasting who said that, who's watching, you're about to be judged. Ooh. Becomes a lot more straight away, like a lot more like rock pools and salty water.
Yeah.
Beach water.
Yeah, no, I recall it changed the nose significantly, and quite a few people enjoyed where it took the flavour.
Mm. And that one is already all spoken for. We only got 78 bottles of that one, so that one, I say only, that's a pretty decent chunk of the global allocation. But it's it was all drawn on Friday for the ballot. We've had to ballot all of these releases, being the festival releases. I know we've got a lot of each one, but to avoid the website getting crushed and keeping it fair for all, we've balloted these ones. But of course, that leads me into saying, which I'll just before we jump into that next whiskey, there's so many whiskeys always on the Society website these days. Now, I say that because it's like, for those who have been members for longer than, say, 2 years, might recall those days where Outturn would come, lots of whiskeys appear on the website, wait 5 minutes, all gone, and then we'd have literally 29 days of mostly dearly departed tags on the site. And it was like, we had to wait until the next Outturn because that was the situation we're in. It was just this, I won't go into the details of how that happened, or, but the growth has meant that we're now keeping up with it with membership growth. And so there's always something on the website. I think I checked like a day or two ago, there's 40, not 14, like 40 different casks and bundles and stuff on the site right now. So that old complaint of, oh, everything's gone in the first 10 seconds of Outturn, it's just not true. We're getting stronger allocations. And I know Andrew can talk about this much more detail than I can, but I just want to bring up this page, bundle offers. We've got some great bundles on the site. There's even a couple left at the moment of each of these, I think, or maybe one or two of them are sold out, but bundles are a great way for you to restock the cupboard, get some good whiskies. I literally had a dram last night of that Tuscan Tales, that 48.132. It's a 17-year-old first fill ex-bourbon barrel from Distillery 48, a worm tub distillery that makes great spirit, and long-aged spirit of that is fantastic. So anyway, one of my points was tonight, just before we moved on, was sleep on these and you miss out. So
yeah, the other thing I'd add to that, Matt, is to reassure and let people know. Sorry, not reassure, remind people there is stock that we put on the website that we deliberately do not feature on Outturn. We are bringing in a lot of stock. Some of it goes to Outturn, some of it goes to tasting events. Some of it we just put on the website, and we don't make a song and dance about it. We don't send an email out to let you know about it. It's just there because we want to have different whiskies for people to try all the time. So you really, if you want to check out everything that the Society can offer you, you really should be swinging by that website regularly, because new bottlings get uploaded all the time that, as I say, we don't put on Outturn and we don't necessarily promote.
No, it's true. Yeah, they're not on Outturn, and then they're just sort of like, sometimes we host events and there'll be, say, like 2 new bottlings within that event. We go, okay, well, there's not really enough of those to put on an Outturn. Let's put them online. So we'll sneak stuff online all the time. It's great. More the merrier. Well, I'm going to park that 93. Andrew, do you want to move on to whiskey number, what are we up to, 4?
Yeah. We're up to 4.
A reward for patience.
Another distillery that doesn't really have much of a reputation outside nerds, because it's not really widely available as a single malt. It's
no offense to nerds.
Sorry?
No offense to the nerds.
Well, hey, I'm one. You can't offend me. So, but it's a distillery that's owned by Diageo. The company that's behind the Johnny Walker and so many other blends. So a lot of its, almost all of its stock goes into the Diageo blends. We actually mentioned this distillery earlier. It's one of the ones that used to do a partial triple distillation, no longer does that. And again, a distillery with a rather unfortunate history, founded way back in 1826 and then got destroyed by floods. They rebuilt it and then got destroyed by fire. It had another fire 50 years after that. Previous owners have all gone bankrupt. The fact that it's still standing and operating today is quite impressive. But more interestingly for us, it's been, in this particular case, we've transferred, this is actually a combination of casks that in ex-bourbon barrels and also first fill Oloroso quarter casks. So we're now actually getting some sherry influence on this, which is why we put it at number 4 in the lineup.
Now, I touched on this briefly at the Sydney and Melbourne event. I think I touched on it at the Tassie one as well, but about this whole sort of like cask, like we've moved into sort of Oloroso quarter casks. Just for those playing along at home, what are quarter casks? That was a question for Andrew, but I can answer.
Sorry,
I can answer my own question if you want.
No, you had this look on your face like you're about to bring up a cute little photo.
I don't really have many cute photos at the moment of this one, but I was going to say if you want me to bring up, no, I was going to talk about sort of quarter casks and how we've done not so much quarter casks, but I was going to talk about how these are sort of like this evolution of working with these cooperages in Spain to source these sherry casks from very small cooperages like Tavasa and there's a couple of Black Oak suppliers that we're just small enough at the society to be able to source those casks from. So there's distilleries out there, I'm going to name names like your Macallans and your Aberlours and your Glendronachs of the world that require a very high number of sherry casks for their maturation policy. Whereas we're small enough that we can go to some of these smaller producers that produce phenomenal ex-sherry casks that we're now maturing a lot of our spirit in.
So to answer your question, a quarter cask is a quarter of a butt. And so depending on which supplier you turn to, they're typically around between 100 to 120 litres in capacity, bearing in mind that a bourbon barrel is about 200. So bit size, smaller size down. As a result, the ratio of spirit to the surface area of the wood is a slightly better ratio, and therefore quarter casks tend to mature the spirit just a little bit faster.
Andrew, good to see you, mate. Split that fruit bomb with the doctor. Can't wait to try the 28. Yeah, the 28s are fantastic whiskies, by the way. We've got a 28 in June as well. I can't remember the code. 28.53, I think it is, on June outturn. That's it was actually great discussion with our spirits director, Kai Ivalo, who said that this was actually the first society whiskey. 28 was the first society whiskey he ever tasted. And he still has a soft spot for that distillery, and I can see why. It's like the spirit is fantastic. It's a bit like the 13s we get, or even the 19s we get, like where it's like you take it out of that sort of realm of your core range expressions, and as single casks, they're fantastic whiskies. This is far more going on in this than just like saying this is just a sherried whiskey. Does that make sense? Like it's it's like I'm just tasting sherry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'd think so. Like it's not purely a sherry whiskey. You know, there's second fill bourbon. Am I right? Second fill bourbon barrels as part of the mix as well. So you're getting a slightly, some might argue, the best of both worlds.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Not far from your far from your favorite distillery either.
No, not far at all. Not far at all.
No.
I can see the smirk. I got criticized the other night for somehow managing to wrangle that into the tasting.
No, I don't know who criticized you for that, but that was good. Did I criticize you for that? Anyway, I think it was very good.
Criticized is too strong a word. It was remarked upon that I did not waste the opportunity.
And as if you would. I can't believe you didn't already mention it in this one. It's like, this distillery is near my favorite distillery.
Come on, I'm a pro.
No.
This is so nice. Wow.
I'm going to try. I'm very reluctant to add water to any sherried whiskey generally, but I'm going to give this a drop.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's 10 years old. It's still youthful enough. It's not going to fall apart.
No. I can't get past there's this sort of like when you're like making like caramel, like caramel sauce, kind of like sticky caramel sauce, and it's sweet, but there's the caramel note overpowers the sweetness a little bit. And I get that in this, like caramel biscuit.
It's interesting for me on the finish. There's a fruit note that comes through really late in the piece.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's not that up front, but it comes through on the back end of the finish. And Andrew Moat just said a moment ago, split that fruit bomb with the doctor. Yeah, I'm getting the fruit on that there.
Can we use that name, Andrew? Can we name a whiskey that split the fruit bomb with the doctor? I like that one. That's a good one.
That's a good one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like an orange oil note on this as well?
Oh yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice one. Almost like some of those citrus cleaning agents that you can now.
Yeah. There's a branded one that's quite big. What's that called? Not like O-Cedar or something, but like. Anyway.
This, so as I said, the distillery had a really unfortunate history and ended up being completely rebuilt in the 1950s, in 1956. So that photo on the left there, you're seeing classic 1956 industrial engineering and architecture, and very functional. And you can see there the stills, the line arms are disappearing out the building. The condensers are on the back face there, outdoors where it's colder, obviously just to help the condensation process to put the spirit back into, the vapors back into liquid form. Huge difference there between, it's not just the perspective of the photo, but you can also see there the massive difference between the wash stills and the spirit stills. I'm really enjoying that. Sorry, mate, did you end up adding water?
I did, and I think it actually improves.
Yeah.
It opens up nicely with water, just nicely. Wow. Yeah, I like that. It's actually a bit like the 93 for me. It's changed every time I've tasted this, because I've tasted this at 3 of our events now and 4 of our events and this virtual, and this is actually quite different from each time I've tasted it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like the orange power was a comment. Yeah, I mean, I may have been thinking of the famous sort of like Big Kev's cleaning products at some point. Maybe orange power was one of them as well. But orange Solvol, wow! I don't think I've ever heard of Solvol as a tasting note. I like that though. I don't know how Solvol would hold up.
I can't believe that they've now decided that Solvol needs orange as a variant. Like.
The last time I used Solvol, it was still a bar as well. I think they make a pump version these days as well.
Yeah, right. Oh, Jesse, good question.
Good question. If a whiskey changes every night you taste it, is that a compliment or a demerit for the whiskey? I think that's more of a, I always, Andrew and I have talked about this before about the, that fifth element sort of aspect of whiskey, which is mood. And sometimes your mood plays, well, not sometimes, your mood plays a giant part of your enjoyment of a whiskey. Where you taste it, when you taste it, time of day, what you've eaten that day, how you're feeling it, you in the mood for that kind of whiskey. And sometimes you're in the mood for a really brisk young whiskey, like a first fill 7-year-old whiskey. Sometimes you're in the mood for a 30-year-old whiskey, and your mood plays a part of that. I think that's so I wouldn't say it's a compliment, but I also wouldn't say it's a demerit at all. I'd say it is what it is.
I don't think it can be a demerit. The other thing too is your perception of a whiskey is so influenced and governed by the food you ate earlier that day and how much sleep you've had. So many other variables that the fact that a whiskey might have a different impression on you each time you go back to it. It's often, I don't think that's the fault of the whiskey. I suspect it's more on us, the taster.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. I think it's a good thing though. I mean, I think, but if you're thinking practically for a second, I actually would call it I don't know. I'd say it's a compliment, because it's kind of like it's in some ways, because you are able to come back to it. It's a different every time. It keeps you enthralled. It's like, oh, maybe I'm tasting something tonight that I didn't taste last time I tasted it, and it's maybe you'll just discover different flavors within that spirit that you didn't know were there before. So
I think also that there's nothing wrong with it being different every night, as long as you enjoy it every night. If it's different one night and it's taken a big turn for the worse, then yeah, that'd be different. But
yeah, absolutely.
I'm getting this has changed in the glass tremendously for me now, and I'm now getting a really lovely furniture polish, like a furniture wax note that's coming through as well.
Furniture wax, right?
Again, I just think some of that oak is now starting to rear its head.
Yeah, the oak's showing a bit now, isn't it? Lovely. So this one was a combination of Oloroso, quarter casks, and second fill bourbon barrels. Couldn't have been too many though, because it only yielded 1,391 bottles. Sounds like a lot in society nomenclature, but it's not really that much when you think about it. It's like
that's a wee baby in the context of larger commercial releases that get put out en masse,
especially larger commercial limited releases.
Yes, that's right.
80,000 bottles worldwide. Ooh.
Well, no, that's limited. I mean, it's limited to the number of bottles they can sell.
Yeah. Love
wow.
it. I'm gonna park most of that dram for now. I'm gonna come back to it because it's changed a lot even with a drop of water. I'm gonna just have a nose at 93 again.
Well, whilst you're doing that, I feel the need to jump on a ferry and head west and
let's do that. Yeah, let's
make my way to Isla. So we're going to start with Distillery 3, folks.
Yep.
Which again is the older of our two peated expressions tonight. Generally speaking, look, for peated whiskies, the peat generally dissipates over time, and so the older a whiskey from Isla, the chances are the less peatier it is. So we wanted to finish with a bang. The Distillery 53 is a far more pungent, robust, big peatier whiskey as a result. So we thought, even though it's 17 years old, Distillery 3 was the appropriate one to start with as we head west over to Isla and we participate in the Isla Whisky Festival.
If you've got a smidge of the Distillery 93 left in your glass, changes faster than a chameleon. I just picked mine up and I immediately got Ritter milk chocolate. Those little square Ritter sport blocks. Okay. We're heading over to Facial. We're heading over to Isla Festival.
I just got off the ferry. I've just driven across.
I've arrived.
And I'm ready to throw the cork away. But in the meantime, this is a fruity time travel.
It is indeed. I like the artwork on this one. I like the artwork on all of them, but this one's cool. It's like this. It looks like sort of, playing around with the device that can shoot forward or backwards in time. Looks like a time travel device. Some mad hatter.
So look, second fill bourbon hogsheads, which if you wind the clock back 17 years ago, was exactly what the vast majority of casks were in Scotland at that time.
Mm.
And, I think for this distillery, 17 years, second fill bourbon barrel is where it's at. I think, it really does showcase that beautiful spirit. The peat comes through, the brine comes through. There's the beautiful smell of, seaweed in the sun washed up on the beach. There's that nice briny note. And it's always been when you look at the big names that come from this island, they've all got their calling card. There's always each of them can hang their hat on one particular descriptor or style or stereotype. And this distillery number 3 has always just sung complexity. It doesn't smack you around the chops with a big bombastic peat bomb like you might get out of a Lafroig or an Ardbeg. It doesn't have that iodine that you get from Lagavulin. Instead, you just get that lovely soft fruitiness, tropical fruits. The sweet barley malt comes through.
Yeah.
Wow.
dare I say, this is almost a this particular like combination, this particular vatting of casks is everything. It's, I don't know how to say this. It's like almost like, I want to say stereotype, but like it's like the perfect combination of what I like out of this distillery.
Yeah.
Sometimes you taste this distillery 3, and you get that sort of almost like metal polish kind of note in some of them, and you get a bit of soapiness in others, and anyway, but like this is the combination that it's just enough peat, it's just enough of that floral, it's got that sort of like, for me, a bit of that like lamb fat and
100% lamb fat. Yeah, good one.
Yeah, like lamb fat and what's that stuff? Lanolin kind of note going on a little bit.
Definitely lanolin, and that's been a mark of this distillery for some time. You mentioned soapiness, and the distillery did go through a period where soapiness was a classic, almost became a bit of a byword for the distillery there for a bit.
Yeah,
I'm pleased to say that period is behind it now.
I'm not going to name the bottler or anything, but I did taste I think you definitely tasted it as well, Andrew. But it was a 30-year-old from this distillery, and it was bottled at natural cask strength, and it was all very exciting to open this bottle, and then it's like it was just total soap, like imperial leather to the top.
Yeah,
like that really rusty imperial leather bar at a hostel.
Well, fortunately, this is not that.
This is not that.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that tasting note. There we go from Jason. Sports tape and seaweed. Sports tape.
Oh, good call.
What a call. That's awesome.
Wow. It's funny, you know, when I first got into single malt, one of the classic descriptors that all the textbooks used to use at the time to refer to Isla whiskies was plaster, you know, Band-Aids and plaster. So yeah, sports tape is certainly right in the mix there.
Or salty smoked apricot with blue cheese and balsamic vinegar. I get a balsamic note, absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome.
I can't join you on the blue cheese there, Jesse. I'm not getting that, but everything else in the note, yeah.
Smoked apricot. Oh, that's fun. This is a fun whiskey.
It is a fun whiskey, and this is my problem with this distillery and brand. It's tended to brand itself as being very austere and very serious, and
yeah,
that's in stark contrast to, say, Ardbeg, that, you know, brands itself in a very fun and jovial sort of mood. And I think this distillery at times, its branding can make you feel like it's a really serious whiskey, or sorry, a serious distillery and serious brand, and it's not. Like it's when it shines, it's such a fun drop.
Reminds me of riding dirt bikes at the farm growing up, says Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where that would come from. Yeah.
Like two-stroke, he says. Yeah, two-stroke fuel. Yeah. I don't get too much two-stroke out of this. I actually love the smell of two-stroke. I mean, for me, it's one of those, like, it is a childhood smell for me. It's like two-stroke motorcycles and farmyard equipment and stuff. It's like, I love that smell. But I don't get it in this one so much, but I know where you're heading with it.
What's really interesting, my childhood memory with two-stroke, of course, has been told by my dad to mow the lawn, and so you know, the lawnmower two-stroke, and so then you get the two-stroke as well as the smell of cut grass, and if the grass was wet, you got that petrichor thing happening, and that to me is a classic whiskey tasting note and descriptor, and it's amazing how often you can have a peated whiskey and just think, oh yeah, that's just like mowing the lawn on a wet day, you know.
Yeah, and I love that sort of memory aspect of, yeah, how, you know, mowing the lawn has reminded you of this whiskey, and that, or vice versa, you know.
Yeah.
Do you get that now though? Sometimes, like, do you ever mow the lawn now, and then go like, oh, okay, that's that smell?
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah. Or sorry, Mike, like, does it remind you of a whiskey?
Yeah, hugely.
Yeah.
So certainly the cut grass element. I've got my Victor these days is a 4-stroke, not a 2-stroke, so that's changed things a little bit. But
wow,
certainly we've still got the Sir Walter Buffalo out the back, and yeah, that gives off that smell.
I doubt you could even buy a 2-stroke mower these days.
There's a comment, you just had it up on the screen there, Matt. Someone just referenced Fisherman's Friend. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
huge Fisherman's Friend note on this.
I haven't had Fisherman's Friends in years. They were great.
Yeah. I think of all the whiskies, this is the one that I could really spend an afternoon with. I think if I was going to sit down and watch a 2-and-a-bit-hour game of Aussie rules or something like that, this is a dram I would just sip on for the entire match. I wouldn't feel the need to, get a change of flavor or go somewhere else. I think this is such a stayer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It is a stayer, and it's hugely underrated in terms of what's on offer here. There's so much going on in that class. Just a slight bit of sort of like burnt buttered toast as well around the finish.
Yep.
Which I love. I love that. I love buttered toast note in a whiskey. Amazing.
Yeah, Jason's just brought up a note there about savory but fruity finish, and again, it comes back to what I was saying before. This distillery, the way they do their fermentation, they produce a wash or a beer that does have those fruitier esters in the in the beer as a result of their fermentation. It comes through on their good spirit when it's put into casks that allow that to shine. If you stuck this in a first fill European oak sherry cask, I think some of that stuff would get trampled over and lost in translation. But
which we've seen.
Oh yeah, and to be honest, that can be glorious as well.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but
this is actually one of only 2 whiskies in the lineup that is actually still available to enter the ballot, which is going live this Friday. So I'm just going to quickly throw up a full screen of the QR. So I'm going to remove that comment. Hopefully that works. If you want to hold your phone up to the screen right now, there you go. You can enter the ballot for that one. That's the ballot QR for Distillery 3 re-release. I'm going to leave that there for 3 more seconds, and then you can. Otherwise, you can check out our website. It's all on there, of course.
Yeah, Matt, I just got to protect my interests here.
Andrew's entering the ballot. There we go. Actually, great comment here. I feel I need to add my appreciation for the label artwork for all these too. Yeah, the team put this label artwork together. There's an art team at the society that put all these together and draw these artworks for each of these festival releases and special releases that we see through the society. So, huge shout out to them, to Frank and the team on the art team in the society who do an amazing work with that artwork.
You know how sometimes, this, anyone who's hosted a tasting kind of knows to look for this trick, but at the end of the event, you look at everyone's glasses and you look for which one consistently has been emptied. Some people tend to leave a little bit behind in some, but of our whiskeys thus far, that's the first one I've absolutely drained. That was that was just so good.
Yeah. I've left just a smidge in mine because I just want to come back around to it and see how it evolves like the others. But I know where you're heading.
Yeah.
And speaking of completely draining, the name on the next release is called "Throw the Cork Away," as in you don't need the cork once you've opened this one because it's getting shared around and that's it. That's the end of the story, and that's the whole concept behind this one, is that it's hugely drinkable, lots of fun, and a collection of exclusively first fill American oak ex Oloroso hogsheads. So if you want to pour that now, we'll head on to that one in just a moment.
Someone's just asked a question about an SMWS anniversary release. Will there be one? And the answer is yes, absolutely. We've got that on the water as we speak.
Indeed. It is 20 years of the Society's branch in Australia this year. So we've got a 20th anniversary celebration, which you won't need to keep too keen an eye on because it'll be everywhere. You'll see it later this year. So yes. Indeed.
Late October, early November, we're talking.
Yeah.
I mean, so just for everyone's knowledge, the launch events when we launched the Society in Australia in 2002 were in November. So officially, November is our 20th birthday. So look, I've thrown the cork away and I've jumped onto Distillery 53.
Done.
We've gone up to the northeast corner now of Isla. Again, another fantastic distillery. Sorry, mate. Did I go too quickly? Then do you need to talk about some slides? You just
no, we're done. I just steamrolled through them. It's fine. It's all good. Right. Yeah, I was just showing that's one of the ones that is still available. So I just brought up the main sort of slide for that one. And no, I don't need any of those. So we're on to 53. Distillery 53.
All right. So look, as we said, an 8-year-old. Isla whiskies generally the peat dissipates and reduces over time. So a younger Isla whiskey will generally be peatier and smokier. And at 8 years old, I reckon this distillery shines at 10 to 12 years. This 8-year-old punches well above its weight. This is easily the equal of some of the 10 and 12-year-old expressions we've had. Wonderful distillery. Bit of history behind it. Founded back in 1846. Got almost completely, well, in fact, the production area got completely demolished and rebuilt in the mid to late 1960s. You're seeing the original warehouse there from 1846, and you can just see in the top right-hand end of the photo there, the new still house that was built in 1967. And what's not appreciated or known by many people, that warehouse of Carlila you see on the left there holds 6,000 casks of Lagavulin. Every single drop of Carlila is filled into a tanker and taken off the island, and it goes back to the mainland, gets matured on the mainland. And as I say, that warehouse is full of Lagavulin casks.
Exclusively ex-Oloroso hogsheads for this one. So a full sherried release of 53. Lots of fun.
That is very cool, is it not?
That's very cool.
Yeah. So this distillery these days, again, not many people know this. This is actually the 10th largest distillery in Scotland.
Yeah, it's a juggernaut. It's huge.
It's huge. Churning out 6.5 million litres of pure alcohol per year. So that's pure alcohol adjusted to 100%. So when it's coming off the stills at an average of 70, what they're actually producing volume-wise is much more than 6.5 million.
By the way, this is great. This is so much fun, this whiskey. I don't know. There's a tasting note in the actual notes that I absolutely resonate with in this one. And it says Maggi liquid seasoning. Do you know those bottles of Maggi liquid seasoning? I've got one here. It's like a strange looking bottle, but it's like not quite soy sauce, but not quite sort of like, it's like soy and sesame and chili all together. And it's
basically umami in a bottle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically liquid MSG. It's great. And I get that note on this, and I get where they're going with that one. It does seem weird. Yes, that does seem like a weird tasting note, but that's the whole idea. These are unique really. I was about to say single casks, unique releases that have unique flavor profiles, and I think it's kind of fun that it's not just you could just go with a stereotypical sort of peated whiskey. This is a bit different, this one.
Yeah. Just going back to that production, as I said, this distillery is the largest it's the 10th largest in Scotland. It's certainly the largest on Isla. So it's churning out 6.5 million litres per annum. The next closest to that is Lefroy at about 3.1. And then both Ardbeg and Mamor are back down at about 2.1. So just for a bit of context here, you get a sense for just how large this is. And of course, it's the backbone of peated whiskey in most blends. So when certainly your Johnny Walker blacks and your Johnny Walker double black, the peated whiskey in that this distillery will be the major contributor to that. Having said that, Ardbeg's currently on 2.1 million, but they've just finished their expansion program and increased their stillhouse. So their production will go up from next year, presumably.
For some reason in my head, I thought Ardbeg was like 1.1 for some reason. I don't know why I thought that. And then I've literally just reached for the Bible.
Yes.
The actual whiskey Bible, not the whiskey Bible, but
that's the gospel according to Inga Ronde.
Yes, the gospel. It is Euro. It's 2.1. Sorry. I thought it was 1.1 for some reason in my head.
2.1. Okay. Yeah. It was certainly if you could go back to the Bible and go back to the 2015-16 edition, you'll probably see something like 1.8 or something like that. So
right, yeah,
they've been working to ramp up production. But it was always limited. They only had the two stills. There was the one wash still, the one spirit still. So that kind of put a lid on how much they could physically punch out.
Yeah.
Fish sauce. Good call, Dan. I agree with that.
And then Jesse says wild berries, roasted duck fat, dark caramel, plenty of cooking smoke from a cast iron pan. Oh, yeah. Cast iron pan. I get what you mean by that. That's awesome. A really hot cast iron pan. Dark caramel. Yeah.
Gee, there's the sweetness to this is extraordinary. For me, I'm getting a confectionery note, and maybe it's almost bordering onto, Columbine caramel chews. And yeah, certainly some of that, the wild berries Jesse referenced and the dark caramel. And you could put in front of me a bottle of the purest water from the hills behind the distillery right now. I would not add it to this dram.
Okay. Not a drop of water, huh? I'm going to take it, team. I'm doing it for our members, so you can not do this. I'm going to try it with a drop of water. Just see how it goes. See how it reacts. Just a smidge. Damn you, Durbage. Doesn't need it. Fine. Good. It's still good, but it doesn't need water.
Damn you, Durbage. I get that a lot.
I said this at the beginning of the tasting. We're writing something up for Unfiltered. Please show your home tasting setup. If you've taken a photo of tonight, post it in the group or tag us on Instagram or send us a photo or whatever, however you want to do it. We'll find it. Tag Andrew, tag me. Just pop it in the group and we'll see it all. So we've got it for the feature. I'd love to see how you're enjoying your whiskeys tonight. Oh, still good, but it doesn't need that water. There we go. Throw the cork away. That is the kind of whiskey where, as I said, you can open it up, share it around. And this is one of the two, I should say, left where we have these available tonight. So I'm going to throw this up on the big screen so you can grab your QR code there, scan it with your phone now if you haven't already entered the ballot. If you've already entered the ballot, then ignore that.
I think the tip is in the name there, Matt. It says throw the cork away. They didn't call it throw the cork away, but reach for your bottle of water.
No. Amazing.
Wow. What a drop. Huge outturn, by the way. I mean, I don't know how, we don't know exactly how many casks contributed to this, but to have an outturn of 2,677 bottles, that by society standards, that'd have to be one of the largest, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, what are we talking? We're like 2677. Even if they were hogshead, that's about 10 hoggies. Or
that's more that's even gone into some of the heresy bottlings.
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. We had a couple of heresy that was only 3 cask, which was great, and we've got 2 more coming up shortly, and we're going to expect to see a couple every year at least.
Yeah, there's the next one that's coming in the pipeline is a doozy. That's going to really impress some members.
Yeah, some good stuff coming through.
Thank you, Mr. Moat. Wow.
And I get caramel licorice, says Hems. Very Moorish dram. Hems, if you were funny about Boiling Coastal, but if you love this one, then I think you're fully down the dark side now. So that's welcome. Yeah, fantastic. Well, that's fantastic. That's a really good ending to these 6 whiskeys as well. It's
been a very festive festival.
Indeed, and they're so. I think one of the parts for me that really shines on all of these is just how integrated they are, and that's kind of one of the skills of Ewan and the team of putting these together as single malts, as working with these casks and creating these whiskeys rather than just relying on just being, I say just single casks, because like they're not single casks. They can get shared around the world. We're able to taste them now with you virtually. We're able to taste them around the country, and there's plenty to go around, which means that there's plenty in the ballot. There are already more people in the ballot than we have bottles for. That is a fact, but the fact is you should still join the ballot. Your odds are very good, and I thank you all for joining in with us tonight. Anything you want to add, Andrew?
Only that it's been, as always, my friend, a pleasure drinking with you, and thank you to all the members who've joined us tonight. And we love your comments. You know, what makes these virtuals a lot of fun is just the feedback and the comments that come in, and the banter. So keep them coming. If you tune in next time, it's always if it was just the two of us talking to one another, it'd be a very boring night. So we do appreciate your input.
Thanks a lot. It'd be really boring just talking to you, Andrew. I mean, come on.
I meant for the viewers, you dipstick, not.
No, I had to throw that out there. That was good. But yeah, he's right. No, we do this for the members, and we love your comments coming in, and all the banter and all the ridiculous comments sometimes. And I love comments that game it like this. Looking forward to winning my 53. Yeah. Wink, wink. Yeah. There you go.
That may not be this one, but maybe one day. Yeah.
There's those last two. I'm just going to show them up on screen now for you to see. There's the last two that are still, the ballots are still open at the moment. Distillery 3 and Distillery 53 were release, and those are probably, I don't know. I mean, like I said, the Distillery 19 for me was my favorite the last couple of weeks, but that 3 for me has really resonated. I love it. So if you haven't joined the ballot for it yet, I would recommend doing so. And that's, I was just going to say, just a sneak peek of what you've already seen maybe on socials today. 13.84 is coming for our June Malt of the Month. The full outturn, which I'll reveal the cover for in just a moment. There's a sneak peek of what's to come. Whiskey and Helmet posted that today from what's going to be on the bar from tonight. And June outturn. There's the cover. It'll be in your inboxes this Friday for all to see and to all enjoy. I think that's my last sort of bits and bobs here on the slide. So
I think that's a wrap. Again,
yeah,
my friend, many thanks. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, indeed, for you too, Jesse. That was the sneak peek. 13.84 is your Malt of the Month, and there's a few goodies coming. Check your inbox on this Friday. Lots of goodies to always enjoy. And thank you, says Jesse, of course, as well. Yes, always welcome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this. This is our festival virtual tasting for Festivals 2022. I'm so glad that we got to bring these to you at the same time as the festival is being enjoyed around Scotland. And to everyone I know in Scotland right now who's about to start Faish and about to start the Isla Festival, I hate you. And I'm really pissed off that I can't be there with you right now. But that's the way it goes. And I really hope you have a fantastic time at the festivals.
Indeed. I echo those sentiments. I hate you as well, but do have fun.
I love you all to bits, but I hate you. I mean, come on. You're at the festivals, of course. We'll see you all soon, and we'll see you all for a virtual or more videos soon. Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now. Cheers.